Check out Southside on YouTube. If you like what you see, subscribe and hit the notification bell. It's Southside on Dash Radio.
Welcome to the A3C Atlanta Influences Everything Southside Dash Radio podcast. Today we are joined by one of the most amazing entrepreneurs in recent history, in Black American history, Miss Pinky Cole.
Hello.
How you doing?
That was a great introduction.
Absolutely. I am Isaac Hayes III. I am joined by Mr. Ian Ford, Dame Joyner, and Tory Edwards from Atlanta Influences Everything for this podcast today for A3C. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here.
The purpose of this podcast is really to shine light on ATL culture and what our culture brings to different sectors. Mm-hmm. So today I want to talk about what Atlanta culture has brought to good eating, food, veganism, and the restaurant industry with your business, Slutty Vegan.
Well, first of all, Atlanta does influence everything, right?
Yep.
So I'm not originally from Atlanta. I'm from Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came to Atlanta, I came in 2005 to go to college. So I went to CAU. Mm-hmm. And here I am. I'm just a girl from East Baltimore, right? So what I know is I know Phillies and I know chicken box and have right. Iced teas, right? So that's all I know, right? So I'm coming to Atlanta and I'm in this space where everybody is accepted. Everybody can be themselves. And this is a land of opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Especially for Black people. So when I was matriculating through Clark Atlanta University, I did so many things. I joined pageants,
mm-hmm.
I joined a sorority, and I really got like my feet wet in the entrepreneurial space. I was doing hair in college. So when I graduated from CAU and I went to Los Angeles, California, there was a different kind of acceptance to entrepreneurship. And it was a lot different from Atlanta. And what I noticed was the support system in Atlanta was so raw and authentic, and you didn't get that anywhere else. So I thought that this was just a different thing. Like, okay, well, Atlanta and then LA. All right, LA is not so much, but there are people who want opportunity. But then I moved to New York. And then I still realized Atlanta was still the only place that I have ever been where there was so much opportunity in the entrepreneurial space. And for people who wanted to build and grow, they had that support system. And fast forward to moving back around, I moved to Connecticut and I came back to Atlanta for work. Okay. So when I arrived back to Atlanta and I started Slutty Vegan, something clicked for me. And I said, it took me a full round ago to really understand that whatever you do in Atlanta, if you have a plan and if you have something that's good, people, especially Black people, will buy into it. Mm-hmm. And as it relates to the vegan space, Atlanta obviously has vegan restaurants and has since the test of time, right? Mm-hmm. But what I did was I took veganism and pop culture and entertainment, and I took that and I made something that you see every day where people stand in line every single day. And I don't think that it would have had that same traction had it not been in Atlanta because of the influence that we have here.
That's incredible. I think that's the purpose of what we talk about. I always say that because of Atlanta's political legacy and the opportunity that we have here, that anything that white culture can accomplish in New York and LA, we can duplicate that success in Atlanta.
Absolutely.
It's just a space where we can, realize our dreams and capitalize on them in a way that you really can in other places. So, tell me this, what got you into veganism?
So my parents are Rastafarian. So if anybody's familiar with my story, the day that I was born, my father was sentenced to life in prison. He was a big-time drug dealer, but he was an entrepreneur. He was very smart, still smart, very brilliant. Mm-hmm. And growing up, I saw my Rastafarian mother only eat fish, right? So we grew up, pork couldn't be in the house, chicken couldn't be in the house. She was very strict. My mother didn't wear makeup. She didn't shave at all. Like, she didn't wear earrings. She was a very natural, holistic woman. So growing up, I adopted her ideals and the things that she believed in, and I took it and I ran with it. So as I got older, I realized that my body was the temple, and I was very conscious about the things that I put inside my body. So in 2007, I went to college and I went to a restaurant in Atlanta and I got food poisoning because I had a chicken sandwich. And I'm like, oh, I ain't doing this no more. Right. So I completely cut out meat, but I was still eating fish. And at the time that I did it in 2007, everybody was looking at me like, oh, Pinky, you weird. What's wrong with you? girl, you in the South, you need to eat some food. And I'm like, this is me and this is who I am. And I'm unapologetically me. And there's going to come a time where one day you're going to be onto this movement just like me. I just got it before you did.
Right.
So, and 5 years ago, I had another restaurant. It was called Pinky's Jamaican and American Restaurant. And I was selling jerk chicken. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I didn't eat jerk chicken. Right. I didn't eat meat at all.
Right.
So although my business was successful, I wasn't being true to who I was because I was selling something that I didn't believe in.
Right.
So I had a revelation and I woke up one day and said, why are you doing this? Why would you feed this to the people and you don't even eat it?
Right.
So I'm lying to these people, telling them that the food tastes good and I don't even eat it. And I'm being transparent because now when I look at myself now and then I see the difference and I see how much more successful my business is because it's true to who I am.
Right.
So 5 years ago, I said, you know what? I'm cutting out everything cold turkey. And that was the last time that I ate any fish, anything that had a mother, anything that had flesh. And that's the happiest that I've ever been because there's a certain level of clarity that you have when you decide to eliminate meat. And I know that might sound cliche, but as an African-American woman, to be able to boldly say, no, I don't eat animal products. I don't eat the byproducts. And I'm proud to do that. And I want to live longer. And I'm going to live longer because I'm not consuming these kind of products. Makes me feel good because there are little boys and little girls around the world that are looking at me as an inspiration to say, you know what? It don't have to be dead to taste good.
Right.
And I'm so happy that I did it.
You know what I call that? I call that esteem eating. Like when you know you're doing, like I drink water only, so it makes me feel good when I'm just drinking straight water.
Absolutely.
So the culture here in this city, and you guys can jump in, I feel like with African Americans are second to none. When we first started seeing Slutty Vegan, these lines were down the block, primarily African American people in line waiting for this vegan burger, and then it kind of went viral. And one of the things that I think that Atlanta does is it kind of magnifies to the rest of the Black community what is next and what's on trend. So when did you really start to see the effect that Slutty Vegan was having on the rest of the country as well as Atlanta?
Well, you know, it's interesting because Slutty Vegan, literally every single day there's something new, right? So the business happened so fast. The grind was not fast.
Right.
The grind I've been grinding all of my life, right? Mm-hmm. So what people see in Slutty Vegan, this has been happening, but the business itself happened overnight, right? So when I realized that this was one bigger than burgers and fries was when I seen 500 people stand in line in the snow, the sleet, the rain, with umbrellas, with laptops, with all of this stuff to consume my product and to patronize the business. I'm like, all right, this is a cultural movement.
Right.
Right. And you know that the Black dollar, we have the biggest buying power in the world.
Yeah.
Right. So to know that I was able to provide a cultural experience, I added in social responsibility. I added in community and customer service. At that point, I knew that that was something that was bigger than just Atlanta. So it's an Atlanta story, but it's bigger than just Atlanta. So what we did is we started to extend that narrative. This is an Atlanta love story. Slutty Vegan is an Atlanta love story. And people fell in love with that. Why? Because they fell in love with the idea that you can go to Atlanta and you could be anything that you want to be. And that's exactly what we did. And now you see us on the front page of the New York Times.
Right.
We have 2 articles in Forbes magazines. We're on 3 front covers of magazines, and we're on every news outlet because people understand that social responsibility. They understand the cultural movement. They understand that you've never seen a Black-owned business do so well as it relates to customer service, a quality product, the consistency. You've never really seen it like that in our community.
Not
really,
at all. No.
Think about it, especially if it was a business that's bootstrapped. Now, tech companies do well all the time, but the restaurant industry is a very difficult industry to be in. So to be in a space where it's successful, people genuinely love it, and people aren't hating on it. When I say we get so much support from the city of Atlanta, it's like a badge of honor to say that you're connected to our business, and that feels good, and it means that we're doing something right, and that's how we know that that shift occurred, and people want it, they love it, they know it, and they fell in love with that brand.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. I say this personally. There are other companies now that are partaking in plant-based burgers, right? And I credit that to you.
Thank you.
I credit that to the business that you created that I feel like, again, the industries that we are in move the needle. So now we have vegan chicken from KFC. We have a plant-based Whopper from Burger King. And like I said, people have been doing this, a long time, but all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, this rush to market,
Yes.
Even similar to the product that you make.
You know why? Really quick. So this is a market that people were so afraid to go in. Think about it, like on a mainstream level, right?
Right.
So before Slutty Vegan, yes, you had the mom and pop restaurants, our favorite restaurants, Raw Sicili's, my favorite, Soul Vegetarian, all of these great places existed, but there was a community of people that patronized those businesses. You understand what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
it's a difference. It was like a very niche community.
Yeah.
So before Slutty Vegan, I feel like these big companies were so afraid to try it because they didn't know how well it would do.
Right.
So I think that people were waiting for somebody to really take it to the next level before they made that move. They wanted somebody else to do the market research, right? So what Slutty Vegan did is we naturally and organically did that market research. I spoke to a few companies that we use, and they told us that their business skyrocketed 30% since Slutty Vegan opened. So what does that mean? That means that people are watching. So now you see the big companies like the Burger Kings and the McDonald's and the KFCs starting the plant-based movement and bringing it to Atlanta
First.
Okay?
Exactly.
The land of opportunity.
Right.
Because they see that Slutty Vegan has lines. So we want to capitalize off that industry right there. So we're going to come to Atlanta and job.
Right.
But it's a catch-22. A part of it was like, okay, yeah, we started it first. But then the bigger mission is that the goal is to have more people to eat plant-based.
True.
You understand what I'm saying? So like at the end of the day, like it feels good that we set the tone for it, but it feels even better to know that more people are walking into this lifestyle. And that's the reason why I started it. Like I'm the person, you come to my house, I'm cooking for you.
Right.
I'm making you eat some vegan chicken and you thinking it tastes real. Like I am that person. So to see it happening on a mainstream scale, some more than others are doing it for the wrong reasons. But the fact that they're pushing it out there and people are buying into the plant-based wave makes me feel good because at the end of the day, I want to know that my people are living healthier lifestyles.
Do you think when we see the plant-based Whopper now, do you think that they've actually sent people into the restaurant to try your product?
Yes. And I'm going to tell you why. Yes, I believe that because... And I'm going to be totally transparent and raw. So y'all know we do tours, right? We do tours. Yeah. We go across the country and people come and they stand out for 5 hours at a time. And it's over 1,000 people that come to patronize those tours. We ain't never been in these cities. We've never paid for advertising. We've never paid for marketing. But it was an underground way to get people hip to the product. So when we started doing that, all of a sudden you see all these mainstream companies doing a tour. When you ever seen a mainstream restaurant chain do a tour with a food truck?
Right.
So I'm like, okay, so we are really setting the tone. So now that's a whole level of responsibility that adds so much pressure. One, because, all right, so we dancing with the big boys. So that means that we have to continue to grow and elevate. So there's no room for laziness. There's no room to have less than quality service. There's no room to have less than a quality product because obviously people are paying attention. Do you know there are politicians, there are lawyers, anybody that you can think of will stand their ass in line at Slutty Vegan. And when people come together, they come together in the name of food. But people are trying to figure out what in the world did we do to make people want to stand in line and to patronize the business. So yes, people are watching.
Food is the equalizer, man.
It is.
My question is this: I gotta know, where did the name come from?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask too.
Slutty Vegan. I felt nasty at first.
So, listen.
I love it though.
Can I be raw in here?
Yeah,
Are children watching this? What is this? Okay. Listen. Okay.
Before you answer that, I remember going to the test kitchen. You guys were up in.
Oh, so you were day one.
Yeah. I don't know how I did. And I remember the first time I came, I was mad because the hours. And I missed y'all. I was like, what's going on?
Right.
So I came back. I had to leave, run some errands, and I came back. And this lady was in there with her kid. And the little girl said, Mommy, I want a sloppy toppy. I said, oh.
Like, oh, it's time to go.
No.
It's time to go.
No. So I got to know. Please.
So it's so funny because I always talk about alignment, y'all. So before I started Slutty Vegan, I used to run every day, 5 miles a day. I used to read a book a day. Like I was getting ready for the marathon, for real. No lie. I didn't know what I was getting ready for, but I was getting ready for something. So I stopped going out. I stopped hanging out with my friends. And I used to be on YouTube and Google all of the time, just thinking about like businesses and what I could do. And I'm an idea machine. If you sit next to me long enough, I'm coming up with 10 ideas. And I don't care if you like them or not, you should do that because it's a great idea. So that's who I am. So I was sitting in the house one day and I was smoking some medicinal marijuana. And
Medicinal.
Yes, medicinal. And I was just elevated. Stop laughing at me. I was elevated and literally like a light bulb. So again, an idea machine, and I tell everybody ideas, but Slutty Vegan popped in my head like a light bulb. I was really hungry and I wanted some food, and I had just moved to Atlanta, and you know, everything in Atlanta closed early, and I'm like, I'm hungry. And as a vegan, you eating fries and a side salad after 8 o'clock, period. Right? So I was sitting in the house and I'm like, I want some vegan comfort food. And I was smoking my medicinal marijuana, and then the name just hit me like a light bulb, Slutty Vegan. And I knew something was different because I've had a million businesses that succeeded and failed, but something was different about this because I didn't want to share it. And I'm like, Slutty Vegan. So I called my best friend and I told her what the name was. She was like, you crazy, but I love that shit, right? And it was such a off the wall idea. Then I'm like, you know what? This could work. Let me start thinking of some names that could go with it. So I don't know if y'all know. So I have a background in TV. So I've been in the television industry for about 10 years. So I have producing experience. So I know what people want. I know that sex sells, right? So sex sells, whether people like to believe it or not.
Right.
So if I can merge the sexual pleasure with food, which are the two biggest pleasures in life, is sex and food, and make it a concept that's vegan, it's gonna blow people's mind. So many people told me, it ain't gonna work. It's too provocative. Pinky, don't do that. Like, it's just too racy. And I'm just like, I'm gonna go against the grain and I'm gonna do that. And I got in the kitchen and I started making up recipes and I tried a thing, and that thing worked. And it worked really well. And every single day, even today, like I look up and I still can't believe how well it worked. And initially, it wasn't for kids. This is a niche market, which explained the times. We opened from 4 p.m. to 12 midnight. And then we would go from the west side to the east side with the truck. So it was for a specific market. People who wanted to try plant-based food, but 1, didn't know how. 2, thought that veganism was boring. And 3, for people who look like me and you. And that is literally how I came up with it. And in the beginning, there were so many hurdles along the way because so many people said, well, you know, we can't have you on our news station because the name. We got invited to the Super Bowl. Well, we can't do it because the name is too racy. And I stuck to my guns and I kept with what I believed in, and it paid off so well because now we got corporate offices. We be pulling up at the church on Sundays, okay? With the Slutty Vegan truck.
Right.
Selling one-night stands and sloppy toppies. And it's bigger than just the name. So for the people who can't get past, it has nothing to do with sex.
Right.
It's just a hook to get you in.
Right.
So for the people who can't get past the name, then you aren't the person that we want. We don't want you to patronize the business.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
But yeah, so
Right.
Slutty Vegan was just something that just came and it worked.
You know what that is?
What's that?
The weed be knowing.
Weed be knowing.
Oh my God.
Weed influences everything, okay?
Influences everything. We gotta do that one.
That's a shirt, okay? Hello?
Yo.
Idea
That
machine.
part.
The idea
Weed influences
Yeah, absolute
everything.
idea
Okay.
That's your AKA.
Weed influences
The idea
everything.
So
machine.
your business is growing extremely fast, right? Across the city, you have 2 new locations, right?
Yes, that'll be opening December and January.
Okay. Tell us where they are in the city.
So the first location is Jonesboro, Jonesboro, Georgia, downtown Jonesboro. And the next location is Edgewood.
That's going to be crazy.
Very crazy. So we were very strategic about the locations. So if anybody's familiar, obviously we put Slutty Vegan in locations of underserved communities and where there are food deserts. Yes, right. And we do that specifically because there's no reason why we got to go somewhere and pay $20,000 for rent when we already have the audience. And especially we want to put it in more communities that don't necessarily have access to vegan options. So Jonesboro is a great place. It was like a no-brainer. Bought the property. It just made sense, right? On 1 acre of land. So it's going to be a whole experience. It's going to be like the fun house, the slutty house, right? And then you have Edgewood in Martin Luther King's old neighborhood. And, you know, that's the mecca. That's like the new bustling Atlantic station, right? Like Edgewood, everybody goes to Edgewood. There's so much foot traffic and so much history and so much culture there. And we just wanted to be a part of that culture. Right. So that's opening in January. And we're excited. On top of those 2 stores, we'll have about 13 stores by 2021.
Sheesh.
I know.
I like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, you know, let me tell you something. My mother always told me, if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. You know, and this is the season of being a grizzly. You know, and just keeping the foot on their necks. You know, we just signed a deal with Rap Snacks, which is very exciting.
Yo.
Yes.
Talk about that real quick.
So we signed a deal with Rap Snacks. It's going to be the first vegan chip on the line. And we were also very strategic about that partnership as well. It's all Black everything. You know what I'm saying? And being unapologetically Black. I want us to be the example that Black-owned businesses can work together, Black-owned businesses can succeed, Black-owned businesses have great customer service and have great food and are organized and can lead like all of the businesses and people can have something to look forward to. So those partnerships are also strategic. So Rap Snacks is coming out in December. We're excited about that. And we're currently doing a design competition because it's all about inclusion and opportunity and making sure that people feel involved in the journey. So now people have the opportunity to design the fucking bag. So now your design, your imagination can be featured on a bag that's across the country in over 100,000 stores. So now we've created opportunities for you. So the more opportunities that we get, we want to give other people those opportunities because it's not a win if we don't all win.
There you go.
You know? So.
All right, so I got to say this, Pinky. So one of the reasons of how we are able to justify making a statement that says Atlanta influences everything is this. It's not just in one area, but Atlanta has this connection between civic and community and corporate business and culture. And throughout the things that you've said, you've touched on community, you've touched on new business opportunities, so like the corporate kind of space. And then culture. And the most Atlanta thing you can do is operate in the ebb and flow of those three. And because we connect between those three simultaneously, naturally in Atlanta, that's where the influence comes from. So my question is, you vibing between those three and setting an example of that. You don't have to be the way Oprah just gave the money to Morehouse. You're doing it with what you did with Clark. And can you talk more about that and why you
say what you did with Clark?
Oh, the scholar. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, say it with your chest.
The scholarships you gave out to Clark Atlanta students. Can you explain more about that and why you did that?
Okay. So one thing so I grew up in a Jamaican household, right? And when I grew up, there was always 10 people living in the house. I used to get so mad at my mom because anybody who came off the plane from Jamaica, they came to my house and they stayed in the room. And it was 10 of us. And I'm like, Mommy, Christmas, I want regular toys like regular people. But we couldn't do that because she was always supporting somebody. And I used to get upset about it because I didn't understand that my mother, like it was her duty to give back to people and to give. So as an adult, I adopted what my mother did. So it's important for me to always give back because the most successes come from giving. So I always tell people ask me, what's the secret? Like I give, like it's not mine to keep, right? So with Slutty Vegan, I made it my business to have initiatives where we help people and support people in their growth through entrepreneurship and education. So that's why I started the Pinky Co Foundation, where I curate these dinners and the proceeds go to young entrepreneurs, which is why, just recently, myself and one of my colleagues, we donated, we cleared the balances of 30 students at CAU because it was important to position them in a space where they can win and they don't have to worry about the little things that hold us back on a day-to-day. On top of all the other things, like, we only announce certain things, right? But we do a lot. We do a whole lot. And it's important to do those things because we want people to understand that as you pour into us, we will pour into you. You pour into the community, you pour into us and we pour into the community. And it's group economics, right? It's that group economics is so important, especially being a graduate of Clark Atlanta University and giving back. I always said that, when I made it, I was going to have a building at CAU because CAU is the reason why I am who I am today, right? So it's important to give back to these HBCUs. It's important to give back to people who are thriving and who want to win. And whether Slutty Vegan is making a whole lot of money or a little bit, that is still a part of our mission. You understand what I'm saying? And that is also a part of the influence, because what we did is bigger than just giving people money to say, hey, we want to clear your balance. What we did is we jump-started a conversation in their own minds that said, you know what? They paid it forward to me, so I'm going to pay it forward to other people. And I'm going to strive hard to be in a position that when I win, everybody around me can win. And that's exactly what we do on a day-to-day. Yeah.
This is a great story.
Well, thank you.
What do you envision beyond, I guess, Slutty Vegan? Like, and I think you spoke a little bit about it, but what impact do you think that you can have towards the next Pinky Cole who wants to start and have an idea and kind of do it, I guess, the same way that you did? And I say that for this reason. What you're doing is what I say, you've been mining black diamonds. Tyler Perry's been mining black diamonds. And I say all the time that we have to be mindful. We have to say, hey, look, we got to stop chasing white diamonds. And when I say that, it kind of comes off weird, because once you give black people the confidence that they can become a success dealing only with each other, it sparks those kind of ideas. So what advice can you offer to the next generation?
So it's funny that you said that, because for years, even people around me thought that in order to be successful, even in the industry, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not, but I know rappers who thought that the only real way to be successful is if you cross over, right?
Right.
If you cross over to the white market, and that's
Right.
the only way that you've made it, right? So I want my legacy to be known as the person who cultivated our culture, our traditions, what we stand for, that experience, and really taking that to the next level and celebrating that. So people who want to be entrepreneurs in whatever space, whether it's the tech space, television, anything, you don't have to rely on the white dollar. You don't have to rely on somebody telling you when you can do it and not you doing it on your own. You don't have to rely on them, but you have an economy of people that look like you that will support you as long as you have a good product and as long as you're consistent, as long as you follow the rules or break the rules. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't have to follow the rules. And I want that to be my legacy. I think that Slutty Vegan is a great business, but it doesn't stop at Slutty Vegan.
Right.
Right? I think that there is a bigger responsibility to show people that Black entrepreneurs can win and they can thrive for the long term. And it doesn't have to be just trendy. It can be a business where Black owners can give back to the community and uplift other people. I know a lot of Black owned businesses that don't necessarily give back at all and don't necessarily pour back into the community. So if I can be that example to show people how to do that, because a lot of people don't know how. Before I started my businesses, I'm still learning every day. They don't teach us this in school.
Right.
So if you can take a page out of my book, this is free smoke.
Right.
Slutty Vegan is free smoke. So if you can get this free smoke from me, then this should be the inspiration for you to be able to start whatever business that you want to start and be successful in that business. And I think that we're doing a great job on it now. And, you know, I pray that we continue to do that and continue to lead and be an example that Black-owned businesses can do what everybody think that they can't do.
You're breaking what I tell people that they have is something called a minority mindset. When I say that, like, if you don't live in Atlanta or from Atlanta or don't spend enough time in Atlanta, you grow up around this country with something that I call a minority mindset, which means in your mind, white culture runs everything and the minorities fall somewhere in second place. And in a city like Atlanta, you don't really feel that way. You know what I'm saying? The mayor's Black, the city council's Black. You have successful Black businesses of all backgrounds, lawyers, doctors, athletes, entertainers. So growing up in this city my entire life, I never felt second to anyone. And I never felt like my pathway to success had to come through someone white, exactly how you explained. So I think a business like Slutty Vegan or a person like Tyler Perry, we're starting to actually see that. And it's no secret that it happens in a city like Atlanta. I think that perpetuates the ideology that Black people can work together, become successes together, and have hugely successful businesses in that fashion. So I think that you're adding to that energy that we need so much in the city.
Thank you.
To piggyback off of what Ike was saying there, the first time I ever came to Atlanta, because it's strange you said you moved to Connecticut. I'm from there. I'm from Connecticut, but I'm not from the Connecticut that people probably see in their head when they say Connecticut. Right. But when I came here, I'd never seen Black people who weren't hustlers driving luxury cars. But just like driving them and looking like they're going to work. Strange to me. I never saw that. And I wanted to move here. But by the time from 12 years old, my first visit here until I graduated high school, I was really a different person, different set of experiences, and I was just turned on to other things. So I was almost wayward. Right. But I ended up here because my mother kind of gave me an ultimatum. It was like, look, if you stay here, you got to pay me rent, and I need to see a pay stub. And if you pay me rent is high. If you go to Atlanta, I can try to help you out. And that's what happened. But I think Atlanta does kind of a repair job on young black youth so far as their self-esteem for what they can do. My mother used to always say that, you know, it's all about your level of exposure. Whatever you're exposed to, you'll start to see things differently. And I've never seen that where I was from. And coming here made me say, damn, you could do anything.
You could do anything. Literally.
And still be Black.
Yes.
You know? So we always, you know, BAME is born and raised West End, Atlanta to the core. And we have this transplant kind of thing where it's people who are natives who still don't get the transplant. Like, and that goes back to school days, seeing Spike Lee and that whole scene with Samuel L. Jackson, and they're talking, that's the natives and the transplants going at it. That's real Atlanta shit. Like, that's what's going on. Yeah. So as we show Atlanta that, you know, transplants ain't here to take your life away or move you out the way, but we're here to get it together. Everybody, you know, y'all teaching us. We're learning from y'all as much. Like what the things that the native might take for granted. They may say, well, damn, I got a Black mayor. You don't see that shit nowhere else. Right. Or that's Black real. Everything. It's nowhere else. So you got to understand. I think that more natives should understand that you have a responsibility almost to welcome us in, or kind of take us and say, listen, we got y'all, but we showing y'all, or almost repairing and showing you what this really is.
You know what's interesting? You know, going to college, most of the people that went to college with me weren't from Atlanta, but everybody looks at Atlanta as an oasis, the people that aren't from here, right? It's an oasis. So it's just like the minute you get to Atlanta, you from Atlanta. Like, where you from, Atlanta? That's the truth, right?
That's how Brooklyn is.
Right.
People move to Brooklyn, be like, yeah, I'm from Brooklyn.
Yeah, but you're not. But it's nobody really is like, well, I'm from Baltimore, but like, you know, I represent Atlanta. It's because Atlanta is such an oasis that welcomes you in such an authentic way that you want to represent Atlanta. Yeah. And you're proud to say that you live in the space. And I've never had the experience of like true Atlanteans, you know, saying like, this is Atlanta, you ain't really from Atlanta. Because I've never, to be honest, all of the people that I've connected with in Atlanta aren't from here. Right. And I'm sitting here like, damn, like I really don't know nobody from straight Atlanta, West End Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like, I know you now, you know what I mean? But like straight West End Atlanta. Right. But that just goes to tell you that this is such a breeding ground for people who want to thrive and want to grow. And it doesn't matter where you come from, but when you get here, you're from the A, and that's that.
All right, please say something to that, and then I'll follow you. But I would love to know your thoughts.
Yeah, no. I always get, you know, frustrated with people online like, we fool. No, we're not full. We're not full. We're not full enough. You know what I'm saying? And the idea, like when I recognize that the minority mindset is something that is very, very like ingrained in the Black community, is I'll have friends that visit from other places. And as soon as they get to Atlanta, we might go to a venue. It could be a restaurant. It could be anything. It could be something very calm and tame. And they might lean over and say, hey man, you can never get this many Black people together, or where are all the white people at? And it's this weird feeling that people get. And it's crazy that Black people feel uncomfortable being around large groups of Black people, which is very weird because I guess in other cities, it either has the idea of violence or negativity or poverty or something like that. And so one of the things that I say when I speak about a minority mindset again is, and with Atlanta culture, is the only people diversity is something that often the word gets thrown around a lot. And diversity is cool. I don't have a problem with that, but you never hear a majority of people asking for diversity. The only people that want diversity are minorities because they want some sort of acceptance or inclusion. They want to see something different than just a sea of white, right? So I take that and say that Atlanta dispels those myths that Black people can work together and live together and be safe and comfortable, don't have to worry about violence and negativity. So I'm glad that your business and the other businesses, like I said, the Tyler Perry's or the music industry or the political infrastructure of the city continue to magnify and actually dispel the myth of the Black person. Atlanta shatters all stereotypes of Black people. It's like what you think you know about Black people, once you get to Atlanta, you don't know that. And it also shatters the myth of Black people to other Black people.
Absolutely.
And that's the best thing about it.
Yeah.
And so I'm from the West End. My parents met at Clark Atlanta University. Well, Atlanta University. And they were there around the time where Kanye's mom was over at Morris Brown. And I'm first generation. My dad is from Connecticut. My mom is from Columbus, Georgia. And the Atlanta Public School graduate martyr riding, just walking when Atlanta wasn't cool. Like, I'm the same age as Criss Cross. So like before Criss Cross, before Arrested Development, when Rap City, Yo MTV Raps, we weren't on there. And I would, when rappers would shout out cities, I would force Atlanta in the rhyme. And so as Atlanta started becoming what it is, I think KP said it a little bit in the documentary on Netflix, the Hip Hop Evolution. But between my 7th and 10th grade years, the city changed as I went through puberty. Atlanta changed, like it wasn't cool, and then by like
It got cool.
but my equivalent in New York or LA or Chicago, whoever felt that change in them cities, them people dead. Cause them cities been them cities. So I got my age group, and I'm 40, we got a chance to experience the shift. And everybody always, number one in income inequality. I used to work at a nonprofit. And so I found out the stats of the 4% upward mobility. So if you're born poor in Atlanta, there's a 96% chance you'll die poor. We have the largest gap between the rich and poor in the country. And it was Jay Bailey at the H.J. Russell Center that told me that poor white people moved out of Atlanta a long time ago. And Cabbagetown, in that area where they're the last bit of poor white people in Atlanta proper, Cabbagetown been gentrified. And as far as people of color, non-Black, not many of them in Atlanta proper either. That's kind of the metro area. Right. So when you get to looking at who are the poor people of Atlanta that is Black, they really in Atlanta proper. And it's like Wakanda. It's levels of Blackness here. We are all not monolithic. And so the moment you will pull a race card in Atlanta, it's disrespectful to a certain extent of Black excellence, because Black excellence has to take the good and bad that come with the king. If it's Black excellence, we kings and queens. So your subjects or your village, if there's a percentage of your village not eating, and it seems like the large percentage of the village that's not eating seems to be the local. Like the local ain't.
Got it.
They're not. I mean, like hyper local, you know what I'm saying? Simpson Road, and these pockets of poverty, the third generation Atlantan. When you say you haven't come in contact with the local like that, in your opinion, why do you, what do you think the local is not getting of the sauce that you clearly see is here? Is the local taking it for granted, or is there just not been something built up? Because there's a disconnect between the local version of Pinky.
I agree. It's definitely a disconnect. And let me correct my statement. I don't have any like friends that were born in. I have one that's from Decatur. She's my store manager. Okay. But I don't have any like friends outside of that that were born and raised. Okay. Because again, I'm a transplant. I jump around. So I just moved back to Atlanta, and when I was here, I was in college. So I wasn't exposed to like that whole local environment because all of the people that were around me weren't from Atlanta, right? So I agree with you that there's a disconnect. Even the people who come to the restaurant, you don't really get a lot of locals that come to Slutty Vegan, especially because the price point of the food. You know, if we really want to talk numbers, the average ticket is $32. So somebody who, you know, doesn't have that level of income ain't probably necessarily coming to a Slutty Vegan to buy those kind of burgers, right? So it's, you know, it's really it's the middle classers that really like support the middle and the upper. So I think we have a responsibility, myself included, as an entrepreneur to bring in those locals. So now what we do locally is we do stuff for the schools in the West End, and you know, we connect with people in the area that we are in. But as far as like the 5 points and all that stuff, that is a responsibility that we need to jump on so that they can be pulled up. And it's just not Slutty Vegan. I think that this goes for all entrepreneurs. This goes for all the industry execs, the politicians, everybody. And I think that that is a great point that you made, because there are people who live in Atlanta that don't see that beautiful Atlanta picture like we do. They see it, but they are not a part of it. You understand what I'm saying? So like they want to be a part of it, I'm sure, but they don't see it. But then the flip side of that is that they have that same opportunity that we do. So what are they not doing with that opportunity?
And live with it their whole life.
And live with it their whole life. So it's almost like maybe some people, not all people, maybe some people just see it, this is where I'm born and I'm raised. That's just like people from New York. Like New York is a person's dream to go to, and the big dreams and going to LA, that's a dream. But people who are born and raised in New York, it's like, it's New York, it's home. You know what I mean? But certain people see different opportunities for different things. So I think that, again, we do have a responsibility to really like pull in that local element and offer them opportunities. I'm sure that there are businesses that are out there that do that. But, you know, we can do more of it. Absolutely.
And growing up to 17, 18, growing up in Connecticut, we're an hour, where I'm from, 60 miles outside of Manhattan. The average New Yorker is like, yo, this is New York. This is the greatest city in the world. But they so relaxed in their New Yorkness that we come here and is just thirsty and try to run through everything. So I always felt like I always had a big group of friends that were from New York City, but for whatever reason, I didn't feel like they were as hungry to get that hustle or do that thing that you wanted to do as I was. And you from the bright lights, you see dreams come true for real, right downtown where you from.
I think that
it ain't like that.
It also speaks to like the Asians and the Indians that come to this country, they see the opportunity and we don't see it. So they're like, all right, you ain't paying attention to it, we're going to jump on it.
We're going to jump on
And I think that is what happens. I mean, the Indians ain't coming to the black communities like, I'm going to pull you up. Like, I don't see that, right? But I think that the people who really come here that aren't locals, a lot of people see the opportunity. And maybe everybody don't see the opportunity. But again, we as business owners do have a responsibility to support these locals and organizations and such to really build them up so that they can have that same level of opportunity. Now, if they want it or not, that's a whole nother conversation.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. I'm sorry. Let me ask you this. You mentioned several times about the other entrepreneurs, and there's a lot in Atlanta. So do you see, like, when I met you, well, I think that was my second time meeting, but running into you at one music fest, and you saying like, yo, man, I need a shirt. I be wearing my shirt. That shit bugged me out. I was like, word, like, okay, that's what's up. But do you see like the local greens and Two Dope Girls, other people like that are in the space that are maybe have the same mindset as you, as let me come and bring something to these food deserts, or just other entrepreneurs in the city? Like, are there people that you look at and say, damn, I respect their hustle, I see what they're doing?
Absolutely. There's a couple, Local Green, that's my people's. Plant-based pizzeria, they popping. I love them. Raw to Silly's again. You know, there are so many great businesses in Atlanta. Last night, I just had a Entrepreneurs Anonymous. because I'm really big on like entrepreneurship. I'm an entrepreneurial junkie. That's what I call myself, right? So I created this nonprofit for young people who want to grow and thrive in education and entrepreneurship, because I didn't necessarily, like, I became a hustler in my head from the internet and MySpace and like just meeting people and interacting with people. So I created this space where people can come together and really just like flush it all out and have the support and get the resources that they need in a controlled environment. Right. And I did that last night with 40 entrepreneurs, and these are some of the best in the city. And to see a sea full of people who are going through the same shit that we going through, who are having the same struggles, the same pitfalls, the same successes, and we can come together and build together. It was such a beautiful feeling. So Slutty Vegan, you just see it on a major level. But all of these other businesses are doing just as well. Right. You understand what I'm saying? So it's my responsibility, and I subtly do it, but I do it. I'll wear the shirt. Right. I'll go patronize the business, post it on my page. Right. Like I'll highlight it on our live, because when people see that we're supporting other businesses as well, they see community. And they say, okay, well, these businesses, they can work together even if they sell the same product. They can work together and it's no competition. So there's so many, when I say it's so many like dope businesses, like Mess in a Bottle, like there's so many, you know what I mean? Like there's so many that like they have so much exclusivity, and it's just like, I see you. All of them. Me too. Like it's like I see you. Like the Village Market, and all of them are so authentic. And that's the key, authenticity. Right. I think that the businesses that do the best in Atlanta are the ones that are in the rawest form and the most authentic form. And it's just like, it's not like so commercial that it's for a different kind of people. It's for us. Right. It's for us, by us. Right. You know what I mean? And that's real. And that feels good to see that in Atlanta. Yeah.
But yeah, going back to your comments about New York. So being born and raised in New York, I can say that I really didn't appreciate all that New York offered until I moved down here. And I feel like I learned how to hustle when I moved down here. But listening to you talk this whole time, it just seems like you really got it all figured out. You're very impressive. Like, so what are some of the books or podcasts that you're listening to or YouTube videos you could tell people to watch just to kind of mimic your hustle?
Well, actually, I don't have it all together.
It seems like it.
I'm a fucking mess. But let me tell you, one thing that I learned, okay? Even when you don't have it all together, like you put it together, right? It's funny that you said that. The theme of my dinner last night was I don't have it all together, and that's okay. And I think that what I do, how I am here is how I am everywhere, right? And I'm just very transparent. Like, I'll tell you the hardships. I'll tell you, you know how many times people tried to sue me in the last 479 days? You know what I mean? Like, so I think that
it's crazy.
It's crazy.
They say you ain't doing business till you get sued.
That part. So, you know, more than podcasts, I'm a YouTuber. Oh, yeah. Like, I YouTube everything, and I'm a researcher, right? So I Google things that I don't know. If I'm I'm at seats with billionaires, and they talking about shit I don't know what they talking about. I'm in my phone like, what is It's for real. And it's forcing me to learn, right? So, like, there are a million podcasts, right? But lately, I haven't had the opportunity to, like, really get into podcasts because I work so much. But I'm always listening to YouTube. I'm always listening to Brother Polite. Oh, yeah. Pharaoh, Young Pharaoh, you know? Yeah. Like those every day, all day. Like, I'm listening, I'm building. Like, you know, I just be on my conscious flow. But what I do is I do a lot of research and real life experience. Every single day something happened at the restaurant, and I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. Every day I don't know what I'm doing. But the best experience is to really be in it, and you can learn from it. Right. So for anybody that's listening to this, that's an entrepreneur and just want to get great at what they do, research. When I say research, that's the best schooling that you can get. And I'm not talking about, and I got a degree, okay? I'm not necessarily talking about enrolling in college because they don't teach you that shit in school, right? I'm talking about really learning and like going on the internet. Anything that you want to know, you can learn on the internet. Right. You know, it's funny to me because there's not many people that come to ask to shadow me. They want to be next to me, but they don't want to shadow me. Right. And I don't want those people that just want to be next to me. Right. I want people that want to learn from me. So if you are an entrepreneur and you want to learn, like, really get in there. Like, do an apprenticeship, do an internship, get on YouTube, get on Google, and learn as much as you can. And this is how you learn information so that you can win. Right. You know, and I don't necessarily want people to mimic me. Be better than me because I can learn something from you. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Man.
Well, I personally, I gotta make an exit.
No, we're at the end right here. So I want
we go. Can I ask her one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
We do a monthly event called Storyboard at Auburn Avenue Research Library. We want to get you there one time.
I'm there. Come on.
We'll reach out.
Yes, let me know.
I'm sorry.
No, I want to thank you for coming to this podcast.
Thank you.
Shout out to A3C for providing the opportunity, and Atlanta Influences Everything for us coming together. And what's next for you? Where can everybody find you so people can shadow you? Because you're going to get shadowed now. You done said it.
Okay, right. Look, people going to be DMing me
Right.
like, hey.
You're going to get shadowed.
Oh, you need a shadow?
Okay, right.
I got one for you.
I'm actually looking for an assistant. So if anybody, you got the best seat in the house, right?
No
So,
doubt.
but they got to come correct. Like, so if anybody's interested in being my
Where can they
assistant,
find you, though?
you can follow us on all social media platforms. That's Instagram, that's Facebook, that's MySpace, that's Twitter, that's Christian Mingle. No, I'm joking. You can follow us on social media, Slutty Vegan ATL. You can also go to our website, www.sluttyveganatl.com. And my people tell me I don't do this enough, but follow me on my personal page because it's two different experiences. So if you go to my personal page, you're going to get something totally different. But my personal page is Pinky907 because I'm the 9 from 07. Shout out to the Deltas.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
But you can follow me there, or I'm at the restaurant. I'm around. I'm here. I think that what separates me, and I like to do this, and people say, well, you're too tangible, like you're too accessible. But why can't I be accessible to the people?
Right.
Like, what's wrong with being accessible to the people? Like, so I'm always around. I'm usually at the restaurant. If I'm not at the restaurant, you can catch me at the city or doing stuff like this.
Well, thank you.
Understand that when you say the city, a lot of people think Magic City. We want to clear.
Hey, I just might listen.
He is not at Magic
Hey,
City.
yeah, I love the strippers. Okay, I just might be in Magic City. Don't sleep.
Oh, my God.
Sure.
Well,
You
thank you
never
so
know.
much for coming through this episode. And we look forward to seeing more of your journey and your success.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank you very
that.
much.
Thank you.
Check out Southside on YouTube. If you like what you see, subscribe and hit the notification bell. It's Southside on Dash Radio.